You're listening to a CNA podcast.
Now, a letter to myself with Joel Chua.
So I'm thankful for the younger me for not giving up or running away, and to always get out of the comfort zone and just keep trying to learn new stuff. Force yourself to be mature.
Hughes Chong there, whom, as you just heard, has been through some rather character-shaping times in his younger days. You know, on the morning of our interview recently, Hughes texted me to ask me if he could bring along a beloved friend. And that happened to be an exquisite antique cello, one of several that he has. And yes, we will be hearing him play a particularly meaningful piece on that cello later on in the conversation. Well, the life of the passionate cello teacher and composer has been defined by the instrument, and it's also been instrumental in lifting him and those closest to him out of some rather dark times. Here's Hughes Chong.
Quite a number of years ago, my mom, she had stroke, and before she even was ill, she was already playing the cello. So one day she came to me because the house was always filled with music, me practicing or composing, or my students come over. So surprisingly, she came over one day. She was asking me, can you teach me some instrument? So I figured the piano is way easier. You don't have to deal with intonation, and it's easy to play. You can just look at the key. And she chose the cello instead. She said she loved the sound of it. So after learning for, I say, maybe 2 years or something, to a decent grade 5 standard.
Right.
One day, I was out teaching, busy. She fainted, got sent to the hospital. So they said her blood vessel, it broke, it burst. And yeah, it was a stroke emergency. So long story short, she went into a long coma. When she woke up, she could barely recognize anyone apart from me, and she was not able to move her body much, couldn't even hold a spoon to eat. And yeah, so things got a little bit better. She was from ICU, she moved to the high dependency ward and to a normal ward. Even still, she needed to be on the wheelchair, she couldn't walk. And there's this funny incident. I asked the doctor, can I bring a cello to the hospital? Because when I play the cello for her, it's always, very uplifting for her. So the doctor said, it's okay. So I took her to the hospital garden and I took out my cello. And so I played something for her. She was not impressed. But this is the funny thing. I asked her, do you know what is this? You have to know that at that point of time, even if you point to a tree, you ask her, what is that? She couldn't name it. Her brain was down to the level of maybe a 3-year-old or something. So this is the magical part. I pass her the cello. Immediately, she knows how to handle the bow, which hand. She knows the posture, how to position the cello. And she started playing, despite she couldn't even recognize my brother.
Wow.
Yeah. So I saw that as a way, like to bring her memory back. And of course, the cello is a highly complicated instrument. You need a lot of motor sensors, fine motor sensors. So from there, alongside with the rehab, I gave her easy pieces to play, starting with like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, mostly out of tune, making scratchy sound. But that's okay. It's part of the recovery, trying to get back. It took maybe around, I say, 1.5 to 2 years for her to finally be able to play something more decently. But when she did it, it's a very touching and emotional moment for everyone. Yeah. And I spotted her. So my place, the place that we stay, there is a corridor. One of the rooms is along the corridor where you can actually hide at the corner and look in. That's where she usually practiced the cello. And so as usual, I'm always busy in and out of the house, out for class, come back, just to check on her, make sure everything is okay. And it was not easy for her practicing, to deal with your fingers not moving. Mentally, you might know that, that is the second finger, but the second finger just won't go down.
Yeah, the brain doesn't talk to the finger.
Exactly. So it's not connected, the wires are just off. And she started crying, and I saw it at the corner of the corridor. So you can't come in and tell her, why are you crying, isn't it? So you have to come in like you don't know, but you kind of notice that she has, teary eyes, and you just have to keep encouraging her. We had a conversation about this years later. She said she knew exactly what I was doing, and, it was difficult for everyone, for her, for me, but I guess we pulled through.
How is your mother today, by the way?
She's around 61 now. Yeah.
How is her condition, her health?
She has fully recovered.
Wow.
Yeah, I am very, very thankful for her full recovery. So what's happened when she collapsed, we went to the NUH, and that was at the peak of the, the evening traffic and everything. Yeah, so when we arrived there at the ICU, the A&E, the doctor, he put me to the corner. He said, 3 things are going to happen. She's not going to make it. Yeah, the degree of the damage to the brain is way too severe. The second thing, she might be able to pull through, but she might become a complete vegetable. Yeah. And the third thing is, she might not become a vegetable, but she will have absolute no control of her whole body. Yeah, so I was mentally ready, for that, and to help to manage her life after that. So when the doctor saw her full recovery through the years of follow-up consultation, I remember the neurosurgeon, he said this, you are extremely lucky. I have seen so many patients in and out. Some they made it, some they kind of have partial recovery. To have complete recovery is super rare. So I am very, very thankful that, she is able to function like a normal person now.
Right.
Yeah.
How instrumental do you think the cello was for this recovery?
I say on 2 factors, of course. Number 1 is emotionally is the factor that binds me and her together. If she can't do the bow, is sliding up and down, she can't control it, or it's a second finger, she can't control the second finger, we do it slowly. And when we spend the time together, it makes everything a lot easier to brave through a bigger illness, unable to walk, it makes us stronger as 2 person, as one. Yeah, then the other factor is, because there's so much demand for fine motor movement, even moving the finger, the angle, you have to program it in a certain way to make it produce the correct sound. And obviously she was not able to fully do so. But when you keep doing it so many times, I guess it's even way better than any rehab program, isn't it? Yeah.
Neuroplasticity, right?
Correct.
Rewiring and reconnection of your neurons in your brain.
Yeah. So unlike, again, no offense to the pianist, for the piano is how hard you have to press the key, and there's a lot of small movements, but you also move in and out the key. But for cello, it's different. Even vibrato, which is this shaking little movement where you can fluctuate the pitch, how wide, how fast, the angle, even the bow, how fast you move, how much you bite. And there's always, it's not a single isolated factor. You have to combine with how fast and how much to move, way you move your way up, way down. They all contribute to a different sound. Yeah, so we had to take it very slow and say, let's do a slow bow today.
Yeah.
And try it. Oh, you got it, good. And let's try a fast bow with lots of bites. Not easy. And when I say not easy, I don't mean like with 1 hour, 2 hours of practice, you get it. Not at all. 3-4 weeks.
Right.
Really. And little bit by bit, you can see the tiny improvement in both cello-related matter and non-cello related matter. She started to be able to walk without help and to go to the washroom herself and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a turning point.
That's so amazing and so moving to hear you share this, not just your mother's journey, but your journey as well, right? As someone who obviously loves her and cares for her and was so instrumental in her recovery because of the interaction that you had and bonding over the cello. So it's been a number of years. This experience has yielded so many lessons in so many ways and with so much different depths. If you could write a letter to your younger self, considering everything that you've been through over the past many years, what would you say in that letter to your younger self?
I guess I would say 3 things. And the first one is thank you. Yeah. Why? Because, I guess I've been through a lot, and my family, we went bankrupt before. So I had to, find ways to make a living, to fund myself through the expensive education. And music education is very, very expensive. So I was always a fighter, never giving up. And through the many, 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 many years of fighting to survive and to earn income, to fund myself through everything that I need without having to rely on people, I now have a very independent and mature personality and character. So I'm thankful for the younger me for not giving up or running away.
Right.
And to always get out of the comfort zone and just keep trying to learn new stuff, to force yourself to be mature.
Right.
Yeah. The second thing I say maybe
Sorry, before we go on to the second thing, I'm so curious.
Yeah.
Where did you get that from? Where did you get this oomph, this gumption, this resilience from?
Oh, you have to. So during my younger days when I was in school, and mind you, everything was so expensive, our family went into bankruptcy. A little bit embarrassing, but it was the lowest we could ever go. And the government, the bank, they came into our house, they put an official sticker on anything that they can sell it off, so it was a very, very tough time. And my mom, she was working 5 jobs in a single day. And she barely slept in every single day, so she barely slept. In the morning, she has to go to the factory, work for some machine parts or something. And that started like 5 a.m. in the morning. Then she has to go to the hawker center to help with the drink store. And then she went to a bread store with the cashier. So it's always way too much for her. And it pains me to see that. So when you really need money for a new set of string for your cello, or for new textbook, a new music dictionary, and they are way more expensive than common dictionary, how could you ask her for money? So you just have to find a way to, find your own money, but of course with a ethical and honest way. So what I did was I started performing a lot, and that's why I started teaching at a very young age. Yeah. And also, I was already doing composition. There was a very big demand for people who want arrangement, not so much like original composition. Say there's a wedding and there's a string quartet, and they want to have a special piece to remember their first love, the first time they met and stuff like that. They need someone to do arrangement. That was me.
Right.
Yeah, so I started doing a lot of the music-related side thing just to get some extra income. So I was always under this condition, which I did not know, only found out many years later. It's called the IBS, which is where your bowel system is not so good. So I would always have like diarrhea or bloatedness, and some days I just vomit out of nowhere. Stress, I call it. Yeah, so I was constantly not eating well, not sleeping well. And of course, with limited money, I guess you can't eat the best quality food. Cup noodle it shall be, and just whatever bread that you can lay your hands on. So I would tell myself to be less anxious, worry less, and things will work out in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there is some belief that there is a link between IBS and anxiety, isn't
Exactly.
there? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Worry less, be less anxious. I mean, in hindsight, it's easy to say something like that.
Exactly.
What were you worried about when you were younger?
Just about everything. I was worried about money.
Sure.
And of course, constantly you have to pay for this, you have to pay for that. I was worried about the health of my mom and her lack of rest. And so during the period of bankruptcy, it's not just the government and the bank. So we also own a lot of money to the relatives, to the friends. And it was not easy for us to stomach it when, they always come over and naturally they have to, and it's not going to be a friendly scene, isn't it? Because there will be a bit of shouting and stuff like that. So it's just a difficult period.
Yeah. I think it's hard to imagine what you went through from an anxious and anxiety point of view, unless you're really in such a position. What helped you through that period of time?
Music, cello, and this is also exactly the reason why, when I say I don't think people buy my story, I was able to practice up to 8 hours in a single day. So I it felt like it's a moment for myself. And I have a small studio in school. If not at home, I just lock myself in the room. If I have to submit playing a concerto at the end of the week, no problem. I have 8 hours per day.
Right.
I just keep practicing until I perfect it. And it's sad to say, I guess, an escape from the world.
I was gonna ask that actually, because obviously you have a passion for music, but also because of the very challenging period of time that you had to go through, and music was your source of comfort, right?
Exactly. And it was also my companion, because when you're playing, if you have a really bad day, say something just really upset you a lot, you just go to your studio, you lock your door, you play something sad, and you cry your hearts out after that. You feel so much better. If things are not going well, you have frustration, you just play something crazy fast and, just go for it, and you might sweat a lot, but you feel better after that. So it's an escape, yes, but it's also my companion, I say, an outlet for emotions. And the best part is, after you have this outlet, you hug a cello. Cello is very huggable. It's a very beautiful shape.
It's very curvy.
Yeah. And you say thank you to your body. Yeah.
When you say that musicians have a relationship with their instrument, I guess what you just shared is, it illustrates it, it exemplifies it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So the first thing is thank you to your younger self. The second thing is don't be so anxious, right? And you had your music to thank as well for getting you through those anxiety-filled periods of your life earlier. What's the third thing you said that you wanted to share with your younger self?
So for this one is because when 11 years ago, my dad, he passed away suddenly, no farewell. And it was not in Singapore, it was in Taiwan. So when we got the news, it was too late. A few years later, my mom, she had stroke. There was no sign. And because it's a moya disease, it happened quite fast. So none of us were prepared for it. So I say, spend time with the people you love, your family, your friends, because when things happen, they happen fast.
Right.
You might not even have the time to say, the things that you always wanted to say. And I say because us being a typical Asian society, and especially traditional Asian society, we don't spend the effort to say like, I love you, I miss you, even to your child, to your parents and stuff like that. Of the many years that my dad was alive, can you believe we did not even say a single word of I love you? Yeah, and when he was gone, it was, I could have said this, I could have done this, and it was too late. And then when my mom had stroke, I felt the same thing, which is why right after her complete recovery, we started traveling a lot. We went hiking in East Java and doing all the crazy stuff. But, it's better to do it now than if you never ever get the chance to do so. So I would tell the younger self, perhaps when my dad was still around, treasure the time and don't let it be too late. Yeah.
How old were you when your father passed away and when your mother had a stroke a few years later?
So my dad passed away when I was around 19 or 20, I say. Yeah.
Right.
And some 5 years later, my mom had stroke. Yeah.
Right. So you were just in your 20s still. What I mean, I can't imagine what that must have been like for a very young man to shoulder it. You had your music to help you through that tough period. Was there anyone else for you?
Unfortunately, no, I guess.
It was your music. It was cello.
And I was I'm not a person of words, and I'm always socially awkward. So, in school, they always hang out in groups.
Yeah.
They go for lunch and stuff like that. So I guess the family matter, the financial matter was way too much for me. I was known as the guy who's always lonely. Loner, that's what they call me. And I was always keeping things to myself and, with my cello.
Yeah.
My only buddy.
It's so ironic you said that you don't consider yourself a man of words, but it's hard to believe that because you've expressed yourself so eloquently and so movingly in this conversation. Yeah, and I'm wondering whether or not the cello was also instrumental in giving you this sense of confidence.
I guess it got better down the years. Yeah, but during the difficult period, I was, constantly bothered by way too many things. And I was never just in the mood for anything. For years, there was no dining out, no entertainment. I don't go to the movies. And of course, you have no friends to say, hey, let's go out for a weekend movie. Yeah.
Apart from being a cello teacher and a composer, Hughes Chong is also the founder of a cello-based orchestra called, appropriately enough, Cellography. Hughes tells us now how Cellography began.
I founded this orchestra 10 years ago because one of my students, one of my favorite students, I would say, she has always wanted to play in a group, small group, big group, as long as it's a group music. And she went to audition for a local orchestra and she got rejected because her level is definitely not a professional level, kind of like just a wee bit better than beginner. So she was very upset. She came to me and she was lamenting about it. And I say, don't worry, I'll form one orchestra for you.
Wow.
And we did. So we founded the Cellography. And I have a lot of students, the best pool of talent I have. So we came together at that point of time to form the cello orchestra with a bit of side instrument like the piano, a bit of percussion, a bit of the drum, and keyboards for some sound effect. Yeah. So the student that I got rejected and I founded the orchestra, she is still in it.
That's
of course,
beautiful.
with my mom playing in the orchestra.
That's going to be the highlight for you personally. And I'm sure when your audience sees it, and I'm sure many of them know the story as well, I'm sure it's going to be so moving.
May I share with you an incident?
Yes.
So for the first concert, the orchestra almost did not happen. So my mom, she had stroke in October. And the concert was meant to be 2 months later. So it was such a disturbing period for me with so many things and always constantly going to the ICU. I told the orchestra, our first concert, building up to the first concert, let's dismiss the whole orchestra, cancel the concert, I can't do this. The students, the members, they came together, they say, tell us, how can we help?
Wow.
Yeah. With 2 months to a show, with a million things to do, you still have to run the logistics, you still have the rehearsals and everything. They came to help and we pulled through. And I was thinking I might have to rush to a hospital after the concert, right? No. a week plus before the concert, the doctor declared that my mom is safe to attend the concert as the audience.
Wow.
She sat in the audience. Yeah, so that was the moment for me, and I gave a speech. It was very, very emotional for me. I was near crying on stage. This orchestra that we created almost wanted to cancel the show, and we made it. And that's not all. My mom, she made it, sitting in the audience. Yeah, so I played her. It was an impromptu thing, but I played her favorite song, me playing the cello solo, just specially for her, for being able to be alive, making it here, healthy, and enjoying the show.
That was really beautiful. Your mother's favorite piece that you played for her at the first concert she attended. Summertime.
I'm wondering, if the younger version of Hughes were to look at you today, the version of Hughes that you wrote that letter to, where you said thank you, where you said don't be so anxious, when you said spend more time with your loved ones. If that version of Hughes were to look at you today, what do you think that Hughes would be thinking of you today?
I hope the younger me will view me as a product of, a mature product, of someone who has gone through a little bit. I won't complain about the things that happened, and I hope it will be a role model, the current me, for the younger me, and to know that things will turn out all right despite there are way too many things not going your way, but it will be all right at the end of the day. Yeah.
Beautifully put. And to wrap things up, if you could write a letter to your future self, however many years in the future that may be, what would you say to your future self?
There's something I feel so much about, and is aging. So I love music a lot. It has been my companion, my buddy for all my life, when I was trying out as a young boy, to coping with all the difficult things, my body, and of course the binding factor for me and my mom. I would say to my future self, be passionate about music, about arts, and don't let age or I might not be able to play as well, I might not have the stamina, that's all right, but be passionate about it. Yeah. The second thing is, we live in a very fast-paced society where today is new, tomorrow is no longer new. So even technology is moving too fast. I hope that I will not be getting behind and always catching up. I need not have the latest gadget and everything, but I need to know what's going on and how to self-improve and keep up with, how to operate things like that. So I find that the heart to learn is very important. You can learn anything only if you want to. There's one incident that, I stand by that motto for many, many years. This was a year before COVID. I was flying back from London. And same situation, they have everything. There's no human counter. You have to go to the machine to do your self check-in. So I did mine quite easily, just a couple of things. And I have the luggage tag. I did it myself. So beside me was a very, very old English lady. The way she was dressed, it looks like she's from the countryside or something. A purple jacket, to be very specific. Not the best fashion. And she came over to me. She asked me, do I mind if I can teach her how to use it? So I asked her, can I do it for you instead? She said this one line, which I'll never forget until today. She said, can you show me how to do it? And if it's wrong, I know what I should not do. And the ending line she said is, if not, how else in life will you learn? So I did a few things. I taught her what to press. And then at the end of it, she pressed cancel. She redid everything herself.
Wow.
But she asked me to go. She shall not hold me back. So I went through immigration, everything, settled myself down at a cafe, a cup of warm coffee. She made it. From far, I saw her, the purple jacket.
Right.
She came towards me very happily. She said, I made it. And I was like, that is the spirit.
Yeah.
She must be 80-something.
Wow.
Yeah. And she's not saying, can you do it for me? And done. No, her idea behind it, I want to learn. This is new. I'm not familiar, but I want to learn.
What a message to end off on. Hughes Chong, cello teacher, composer, and passionate believer in a lifetime of learning. My sincere thanks to Hughes Chong and his buddy, the cello, that he brought into our interview as well, for sharing their journey. This has been A Letter to Myself on CNA 938.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. You can subscribe and follow A Letter to Myself on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And leave us a review as well if you liked what you've heard. Till next week, I'm Joel Chua, signing off.